Angela Simmons didn't just dump Yo Gotti. She lit the match, dropped it, and walked away while the whole situation went up in flames. After years of being publicly chased, spoiled, and serenaded in songs, Angela has officially had enough. And the final straw? Word on the street is Yo Gotti didn't just cheat. He allegedly got his side chick pregnant. For a man who spent years declaring Angela was the love of his life, this is the kind of betrayal you don't come back from. But here's the kicker. Angela's not just walking away. She's reportedly gearing up to get real messy. And if the rumors are true, this breakup is just the beginning of a revenge plot that could expose everything Gotti's been hiding. Let's get into it. For years, it played out like a fairy tale in front of our eyes. He was the southern rap mogul who never hid his crush, and she was the untouchable hip-hop heiress, born into legacy, beauty, and quiet class. Yo Gotti's pursuit of Angela Simmons wasn't just a personal crush. It was a public campaign, a spectacle, a masterclass in manifestation, some would say. But behind every viral fantasy lies a hidden cost. And when the curtain dropped on this perfect union, what spilled out wasn't roses. It was rot. Let's rewind. It all started with a DM, or rather a lyric about one. And I just followed Angela Simmons. /boy, I got a crush on Angela Simmons. Those infamous lines from Yo Gotti's 2015 hit down in the DM didn't just put Angela on notice. They cemented her as a symbol of the ideal woman in hip-hop culture. She wasn't just a pretty face anymore. She was the fantasy, the prize, the dream girl. And Gotti? He was the persistent dreamer, the man bold enough to speak what others only whispered. Fans ate it up. The lyric went viral. Memes spread like wildfire. Everyone rooted for Gotti. Even Angela's father, Reverend Run, hip-hop royalty, was pulled into the fanfare. Social media became a cheering section for a relationship that hadn't even started yet. People projected love where there was only longing. And Gotti, smart and strategic, kept that energy alive for years. Every interview, every subtle mention, every like was a breadcrumb, and the audience followed. Meanwhile, Angela stayed quiet, dignified, occasionally amused, but never fully engaged. She was busy being a mother, a businesswoman, a Simmons. And maybe, just maybe, she was aware of how dangerous it could be to become a man's fantasy before becoming his partner. Because when people fall in love with the idea of you, they don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with control, with winning, with owning the image they've crafted in their minds. Fast forward to 2023. The internet gasped as Angela finally went public with Gotti. A soft launch photo on New Year's Eve, hand in hand, dressed in black like a couple from a music video. Fans lost it. The dream had come true. The rapper who'd waited nearly a decade had finally got the girl. The manifestation was complete. Or so he thought. But almost immediately, something felt off. Their chemistry in photos? Stiff. Forced. Robotic. The Instagram captions? Heavy-handed. Like they were both trying to sell a story they weren't fully living. There was a kind of emptiness behind the luxury, like two people playing dress-up in a narrative they didn't write. And that's when the cracks began to show. Behind the scenes, whispers started to circulate. Allegations that Gotti's charm had a dark edge. That Angela was being managed, not loved. That her silence wasn't peace, it was survival. And then came the unfollow. No public breakup. No statement. Just digital distance. The dream dissolved into data. Angela wiped him from her feed. Unfollowed. Disappeared. Fans were confused, hurt, even angry. How could the fairy tale end without warning? But to those who watched closely, the warning signs were always there. Because let's be honest, Gotti didn't just want Angela. He pursued her as a symbol. And symbols don't get to speak. They're put on pedestals. They're used for optics. And when they stop performing, they get discarded, or worse, punished. We have to ask, was Angela ever really in love with Gotti? Or did she try to live up to the public fantasy, only to find herself suffocated by it? Did the dream man turn into a nightmare the moment he got what he wanted? And Gotti, was his obsession ever about love? Or was it about the validation of winning a woman that the world saw as unreachable? Because here's the ugly truth. When a man chases you publicly for years, he's not always chasing you. Sometimes he's chasing an ego boost. Sometimes he's chasing revenge against every woman who ever rejected him. Sometimes he's building a brand, not a bond. Angela, for her part, hasn't spoken out, but her silence speaks volumes. She's been through public heartbreak before. Let's not forget the tragic death of her fiancé Sutton Tennyson and the challenges of raising her son alone. She knows how to grieve in private. She knows how to rebuild. And most of all, she knows when to walk away. But what does this say about us, the audience? We watched Gotti's crush unfold like it was a Netflix love story. We reposted. We rooted. We made it our business. But did we ever stop to wonder how Angela felt about becoming a romantic trophy? Do we ever consider that what looked like a dream from the outside could feel like a trap on the inside? The most dangerous kind of man isn't always the one who disrespects you loudly. Sometimes it's the one who adores you strategically, in ways that make it impossible for you to say no without looking like the villain. And in this story, maybe Angela didn't reject the dream. Maybe she just woke up. Because in the end, a fantasy is only fun until someone tries to live in it. And when real emotions, power dynamics, and public pressure get involved, even the most beautiful dreams can turn dark. So, was Yo Gotti the ultimate romantic? Or just a master manipulator playing the long game? And Angela Simmons, was she ever truly loved? Or just cast in a role she never auditioned for? From dream man to nightmare. This wasn't just a breakup. It was a lesson. Be careful who writes your love story. Because if you're not holding the pen, you're just a plot twist. Just when it looked like Angela Simmons and Yo Gotti were finally living out the dream relationship fans have been shipping for nearly a decade, 2023 pulled back the curtain and exposed a plot twist nobody saw coming. The red carpet appearances, the luxury vacations, the matching fits, all of it suddenly felt like smoke and mirrors when the whispers started swirling that Gotti wasn't just sharing his life with Angela. He might have been sharing his bed with someone else too. Enter the now infamous nurse boo. According to gossip of the city, the cracks in Angela and Gotti's picture-perfect romance became undeniable when rumors started leaking about a mysterious woman, described as a medical professional, who'd allegedly been around long before Angela ever entered the picture. This wasn't just a rebound or a post-break fling. No, this nurse was known by insiders. She had history, and fans were quick to point out she didn't just appear out of nowhere. In early 2023, during what Gotti's team later referred to as a mutual break, he was allegedly spotted in Vegas. Not alone, not grieving, but very much in the company of this so-called nurse, whose identity was being shielded by friends and insiders, but not well enough to stop the tea from spilling. And here's where things got even messier. Gossip blogs didn't hesitate. Photos started surfacing, blurry, yes, but compelling enough. A woman in scrubs, familiar with the VIP lifestyle, seen frequenting Gotti's section more than once. DMs were leaked. Anonymous sources started claiming this nurse wasn't a fling, but a fixture. Someone who'd allegedly been on standby throughout Gotti's public courtship of Angela. One follower even commented, "The way she slid back in like she never left? That's not a side chick, that's a shadow." The timeline didn't add up either. If Angela and Gotti were on a break, why was this woman already so comfortable in his space? Why did she know his circle? Why were there rumors of her attending private events with him even before Angela went public with their relationship? It didn't take long for people to start speculating that the nurse wasn't just a rebound. She might have been the main the entire time. Fans weren't buying the "we were on a break" excuse. It reeked of damage control. And the worst part? Angela had no idea, or at least pretended not to. In public, she stayed poised. But behind the scenes, sources say she was devastated. The betrayal cut deeper because it wasn't just about another woman. It was about the illusion. The idea that Angela had finally found peace with the man who'd been chasing her for years, only to realize she may have walked straight into a performance. One where she was the leading lady for the audience, but someone else had already been cast in the role backstage. And while Angela was flying private, posing in couple shoots, and uploading quotes about loyalty and growth, Nurse Boo was allegedly still receiving late-night calls and quiet trips that never made it to Instagram. The scandal exposed more than a cheating rumor. It exposed a pattern. Because this nurse didn't just appear during a break. She'd allegedly been there the whole time. And as we'll see in the next chapter, the more Angela leaned into love, the more it became clear that she was living in the spotlight of a man still leading a double life. One with her, and one with the side chick who never really stayed on the side. By 2023, Angela Simmons thought she had finally stepped into her fairy tale ending. After years of playful tension, late-night interviews, and cryptic lyrics, Yo Gotti was finally hers. The man who once rapped about her in a hit single was now holding her hand in public, flying her out to luxury destinations, and calling her his queen. To fans, it looked like a love story 10 years in the making. But beneath the glitz, there was one detail Angela couldn't see. She might have been walking through her dream relationship, while another woman was quietly living in the same reality. Because as Angela was posting #couplegoals content, someone else was allegedly slipping in and out of Gotti's private circle with far less scrutiny. The nurse. The same woman rumored to have been around before Angela. The same woman who resurfaced the moment the couple hit a rough patch. And most damning of all, the same woman Gotti never seemed to fully cut off. Fans started to piece it together like a puzzle. If the nurse was just a fling during a break, why did her name keep coming up even after Angela and Gotti reunited? Why were there whispers that she was still around, quietly, discreetly, but always present? It painted a troubling picture, one where Angela thought she was the only one, while Gotti may have been juggling two very different dynamics. One public, polished, and high-profile with Angela, the legacy heiress, the influencer, the name, and one private, off-grid, and familiar with the nurse. Low-key, no headlines, but somehow always within reach. There were clues. Angela would post a romantic vacation snap, and days later, blogs would drop anonymous tips about the nurse being flown into the same city. Never in the same photo, never at the same venue, but always eerily close. Screenshots of old DMs were leaked, hinting that communication between Gotti and the nurse never really stopped. A source even claimed she once referred to herself as his safe place, adding fuel to the theory that while Angela was his spotlight, the nurse was his secret comfort. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Because Angela wasn't just anyone. She was Yo Gotti's dream girl, the one he rapped about, waited on, pursued relentlessly. So when fans started to suspect she'd been sharing him the entire time, it sent shockwaves across social media. Was the nurse a rebound? Or was Angela the fantasy Gotti finally caught, but couldn't commit to fully? Even more chilling. Was this ever really a love triangle? Or was Angela unknowingly inserted into a dynamic that had already existed for years? The questions piled up. Did Gotti ever truly let the nurse go? Or did he just switch the optics, giving Angela the role of girlfriend, while quietly keeping another woman in the shadows? Was Angela in love, or in competition, without even knowing it? The narrative fans once championed, of a man finally winning over the woman he adored, was starting to look less like romance and more like strategy. A double life. Two women. One truth slowly unraveling. And the deeper you go into this love story, the more it feels like Angela wasn't just betrayed. She may have been used to complete an image, while someone else was always holding the unfiltered version of a man behind the myth. If you thought the cheating rumors were messy, what came next blew the lid off the entire fairy tale. Because just when Angela Simmons thought she had navigated through the worst of the lies, betrayal, and blurred boundaries, boom, came the pregnancy rumor. Yes, that pregnancy rumor. The one that set social media on fire and had insiders whispering about the moment Angela allegedly lost it all. According to multiple sources close to the situation, the nurse boo, the same woman rumored to have been floating in and out of Gotti's life even during his public relationship with Angela, was suddenly pregnant. And the timelines? Suspicious. Too suspicious to ignore. It wasn't just a random fling or someone from the distant past. No, this was the same woman fans had clocked months ago when the cheating rumors first broke during their so-called break. Only now, it looked like Gotti hadn't just been unfaithful. He may have created a permanent tie to another woman while still actively entertaining Angela. And Angela? She snapped. One insider claimed that when Angela found out, she completely blacked out, screaming, crying, throwing things. Allegedly trashed Gotti's place in a fit of rage. We're talking broken glass, ripped clothing, damaged property. It was the kind of explosion you only have when you realize you weren't just betrayed, you were played. And fans who had followed her journey weren't surprised. Because if you look back, Angela had always tried to forgive. After all, this wasn't the first scandal she had weathered. She had already given Gotti another chance when he allegedly hooked back up with one of his exes during a previous rough patch. People forget, she was silent back then. She stayed. She worked through it. Even after cryptic posts, online clues, and red flags stacked a mile high, Angela gave him grace. Again and again. But this? A baby? That was different. A baby meant longevity. A baby meant Gotti had been building something behind the scenes while feeding Angela a dream. A baby meant the side chick had just become a permanent figure, while Angela was being paraded in public as the main one. It flipped the whole love story on its head. To the world, Angela was the chosen one. The girl Gotti had wanted since 2015. The muse. The prize. But the pregnancy scandal revealed a different truth. Maybe Angela was just the front-facing fantasy, while Gotti had been sowing real seeds with someone else all along. Even worse, some fans speculated that the baby wasn't a surprise. It was intentional. That Gotti had been keeping both women in rotation, neither fully in nor fully out, until something irreversible happened. And when the nurse showed up pregnant, the illusion cracked. The mask fell. Angela, the woman who had forgiven so much, finally broke. And just like that, the dream man she once defended, loved, and stood beside became the villain in a story she never asked to be part of. Not just a cheater, not just a liar, but now, the father of a child conceived during the ugliest chapter of their relationship. A baby bombshell that turned Angela's heartbreak into headlines and made fans wonder, was she ever really the one, or just one of many in a game she didn't know she was playing? What do you do when love fails, but your ego won't let go? If Yo Gotti, the answer was simple. Distract her with $500,000 worth of gifts. Because after betrayal, a rumored baby with another woman, and a shattered relationship laid bare for the public, Gotti didn't come back with flowers or an apology. No, he came back with a Birkin, a diamond watch, a full-blown luxury parade to prove one thing. Money still talks. But this time, Angela Simmons wasn't listening. Let's rewind to Angela's 2024 birthday. Just months after whispers of infidelity and pregnancy drama had started swirling, Gotti decided it was time to stage a grand gesture, a desperate attempt to reel Angela back into the fantasy he'd built around them. But instead of accountability, remorse, or public clarity, he offered opulence. Sources say Gotti spared no expense. First, there was the custom Hermes Birkin, reportedly retailing for over $40,000 alone. But this wasn't just any Birkin. This was rare leather, hand-selected color, full crocodile trim. The kind of bag you don't walk into a store and buy. You wait years or know someone powerful enough to skip the list. Then came the diamond-encrusted Rolex, customized and rumored to cost upwards of $80,000. That was followed by a private birthday dinner, allegedly with a private chef, designer decor flown in, and a venue shut down just for her. The whole setup? Easily crossing the $500,000 mark, if not more. Gotti didn't just pull out all the stops, he burned the whole playbook. But here's the twist. None of it worked. Angela smiled for the cameras. She posed. She wore the dress, took the photos, and let the world wonder. Are they back together? Did the money smooth it all over? But behind the scenes, insiders say Angela was still ice cold. She may have accepted the gifts, but she didn't accept the man. Because the damage was already done. Publicly, the display was marketed as a win-her-back moment. A grand romantic gesture. But to those watching closely, it looked more like a payoff. A distraction. A last-ditch attempt to overwrite betrayal with bling. But for Angela, who had stuck by Gotti when he was chasing clout and controversy, no bag, no bracelet, no price tag could repair the trust he shattered. And fans? They weren't buying it either. Social media lit up with comments like, "He thinks a Birkin erases a baby," and "She's smiling, but her eyes say I'm done." Others called out the emotional manipulation, pointing out that Gotti's move wasn't about love, it was about control. He couldn't undo the truth, so he tried to drown in diamonds. But Angela's silence was louder than any flex. She wore the gifts, but she didn't wear his name. No posts, no hand-holding, no official reunion. Because deep down, even $500,000 can't patch a heart that knows it was second place. And in that moment, Gotti realized the truth he'd tried to outshine. Angela Simmons was no longer for sale. Back in 2015, Yo Gotti did something most rappers wouldn't dare. He turned his crush into a hit single. "I Got a Thing for Angela." Simmons. That lyric didn't just put Angela's name in the spotlight. It made her the fantasy. Gotti wasn't subtle. He was bold, thirsty, and calculated. And fans ate it up. That line and down in the DM flipped the narrative. Suddenly, Gotti wasn't just a rapper. He was the love-struck underdog shooting his shot at Black Hollywood royalty. Angela, the preacher's daughter with her own empire, and Gotti, the street mogul with a microphone and a mission. It was the perfect tension, beauty and the boss, class and clout. But while the public fell for the fairy tale, Angela wasn't giving the fantasy back, at least not in public. At the time, her response was cold, dismissive even. When pressed in interviews, she laughed it off. "It's flattering," she'd say, "but we're just cool." A classic line. The kind women use when they're trying to stay in control of a narrative that's already spiraling. She kept the door cracked, but never wide open. Or so we thought. Because while Angela fronted like it was all fan fiction, something strange happened at her private product launch party just months later. Sources at the event say Gotti wasn't just invited. He was escorted in like family. Not only was he seated close to Angela, but eyewitnesses claim they shared a few too friendly moments backstage. Lingering looks, private conversations, and one source alleges he even left the event from a separate exit after Angela dipped early. That's not just friends. That's just not public yet. And fans picked up on the vibes quick. Speculation exploded online. Why is she playing hard to get if she keeps inviting him to exclusive events? And Angela ain't fooling nobody. He been had her. The more she insisted there was nothing between them, the more people clocked the inconsistencies. The chemistry was too obvious, the interactions too frequent, and Gotti's obsession too targeted to be one-sided. Then came the PR spin. Angela's team worked overtime to keep the "just friends" label on lock. Carefully curated social posts. Strategically edited red carpet footage. No photos too close, no captions too revealing. But the thing is, publicists can only hide so much. Because by 2016, Gotti was still name-dropping her in songs, still lurking in her Instagram likes, and still showing up at her events. Either he had no shame, or he knew something we didn't. And let's not forget, Angela was no stranger to secret relationships. Her dating history has always been full of soft launches, blurred timelines, and private heartbreaks that only came to light after the damage was done. So when she kept dodging the Gotti rumors, it only fueled the idea that they'd already been entangled long before the world got receipts. In hindsight, the real game wasn't whether Gotti could win her over. It was how long Angela could keep the truth under wraps. And as we now know, the "just friends" label was less about honesty and more about image protection. Because Angela Simmons wasn't just navigating a potential romance. She was preserving a brand. A brand built on modesty, mystery, and making moves without mess. But as time would prove, mess was exactly what she was about to walk into. Sometimes, the truth doesn't break in a headline. It slips out in a lyric. And for Yo Gotti, one of the biggest red flags in this entire Angela Simmons saga didn't come from paparazzi photos or side chick screenshots. It came straight from his own mouth. In an interview that flew under the radar for months, Gotti casually dropped a bombshell with all the swagger of a man who thought no one was paying attention. He bragged about giving his baby mama $100,000 for Valentine's Day. That's right, not a birthday, not child support, Valentine's Day. And just like that, the fans' sympathy started to shift. Because if Gotti was supposedly so in love with Angela, Why was he dropping six figures on another woman for the most romantic day of the year? At first, it felt like Gotti was just flexing. After all, he's known for tossing Birkin bags and watches around like confetti. But fans who've been piecing together the timeline knew better. This wasn't just a generous co-parenting gesture. This was a breadcrumb, a clue, one that made everyone look back at the relationship with Angela through a completely different lens. Because if Gotti was still that financially and emotionally invested in his baby mama, was Angela ever really the one? Or was she just the public face of a very messy, very private double life? Let's be honest, the timing was suspect. The $100,000 Valentine's reveal came not long after rumors had started to swirl about Angela and Gotti's rocky status. Around the same time that cheating whispers and side chick tea began flooding the blogs. And just when fans thought Angela was the only woman in Gotti's world, he reminded us, in a single sentence, that she wasn't even the only one getting gifted. And here's where it gets darker. That same baby mama? Some fans believe she wasn't just a figure from Gotti's past. She may have never been out of the picture. There were whispers that she was the same woman allegedly spotted with him in Vegas. The same woman that gossip of the city called the Nurse Boo. A recurring name behind the scenes. Never tagged, never spoken about directly, but always close enough to leave a shadow. Suddenly, Angela's perfect couple post started to look like PR, not passion. Her curated photos and heartfelt captions now read like distractions. Diversions from the fact that while she was glowing up online, Gotti might have been loving someone else offline. Someone who didn't need red carpets or matching fits to feel chosen. Because she had something more powerful. Consistency. The internet doesn't miss, and neither do patterns. When Gotti's lyrics started matching blog rumors, and those rumors started aligning with fan timelines, the whole illusion cracked. People began asking the real question, was Angela ever Gotti's endgame, or just a decoy? Because $100,000 isn't just a gift, it's a statement, a financial love letter. And for many fans, it confirmed what they'd suspected all along. Angela might have been the dream girl for the cameras, but someone else had always been the main character in Gotti's real life. If you blinked, you missed it, but Angela Simmons just flipped the entire script in one move. No press tour, no red carpet reveal, no soft launch on Instagram stories. Just a quiet, calculated checkmate. Out of nowhere, Angela announced not only that she was engaged, but that she's pregnant, and the internet shook. After months of whispers, subtweets, and unfollowing sprees, most people assumed she and Yo Gotti were still navigating the wreckage of their breakup. But Angela? She was already 10 steps ahead. No messy rebounds, no breakup interviews, just a diamond ring and a baby bump that seemed to say, I've moved on, and I'm winning. The most shocking part? How silent she kept it all. This is a woman who once let the world watch every step of her love life, from Romeo to Sutton to Gotti. But this time, not a peep. No soft launches, no hints, not even a cryptic story post. She went dark. And when she finally came back up for air, she wasn't just done with Gotti. She was starting over with someone else entirely. And fans are divided. Some feel played, like they bought into the Gotti x Angela love story just for her to pivot without warning. But others? They're calling it her power play, a private rebirth. Because after years of being someone's public obsession, Angela finally got her own headline. And this time, it wasn't about being a rapper's dream girl. It was about being her own woman. If Gotti thought he was going to get a redemption arc, Angela just snatched it. No drawn-out drama. No closure conversation. Just a clean break and a new chapter with a whole family on the way. And while Gotti was out here trying to win her back with Birkins and birthday diamonds, Angela was quietly building a new life. One that didn't include him and maybe never needed him in the first place. From the moment Yo Gotti name-dropped Angela Simmons in Down in the DM, he built an entire fantasy. One where the street king falls for the good girl. It wasn't just a crush. It was a campaign. A public pursuit so persistent, it became a meme, a lyric, a love story in real time. And for a while it worked. He got the girl. They took the yacht pics. Did the coordinated fits. They were goals. The how it started versus how it's going couple that made the timeline believe in romantic persistence. Gotti's whole image shifted from Memphis boss to love-struck gentleman. But now, that whole fairy tale has crumbled. Angela's gone, engaged to someone else, carrying a baby that's not his. And Gotti's left holding the broken pieces of the persona he spent years curating. No more matching outfits. No more luxury vacations. Just silence and suspicion. Because now that the dust is settling, fans are starting to question everything. Was the relationship even real? Was Angela ever his top priority? Or was she just a trophy he chased for clout? And don't think Angela's sitting quietly in her new life. There's buzz, lots of it, that she might go public. Sources say she's been holding on to receipts, texts, timelines. And if she ever drops them, Gotti's nice guy fantasy might be dead for good. Meanwhile, he's been suspiciously quiet. No diss tracks. No, I miss her captions. Just the eerie calm of someone who knows he fumbled and might still be plotting a way back in. Damage control, maybe. Or a redemption arc that nobody's buying anymore. Either way, one thing's clear. The relationship might be over. But the drama? Oh, honey, it's just getting started. Stay tuned, because something tells us this love story didn't end with heartbreak. It ended with revenge.